Cloud security is the protection of data stored online via cloud computing platform thefts, leakage, and deletion. Data loss is the most common cloud security risks of cloud computing. It is also known as data leakage. Data loss is the process in which data is being deleted, corrupted, and unreadable by a user, software, or application. What are the security risks of cloud computing? Cloud computing provides various advantages, such as improved collaboration, excellent accessibility, mobility, storage capacity, etc. But there are also security risks in cloud computing. Some most common security risks of cloud computing are given below. Data loss. Data loss is the most common cloud security risks of cloud computing. It is also known as data leakage. Data loss is the process in which data is being deleted, corrupted, and unreadable by a user, software, or application. In a cloud computing environment, data loss occurs when our sensitive data is somebody else's hands. One or more data elements cannot be utilized by the data owner. Hard disk is not working properly, and software is not updated. Hacked interfaces and insecure APIs. As we all know, cloud computing is completely depends on internet, so it is compulsory to protect interfaces and APIs that are used by external users. APIs are the easiest way to communicate with most of the cloud services. In cloud computing, few services are available in the public domain. These services can be accessed by third parties, so there may be a chance that these services easily harmed and hacked by hackers. Data breach. Data breach is the process in which the confidential data is viewed, accessed, or stolen by the third party without any authorization, so organizations' data is hacked by the hackers. Vendor lock-in. Vendor lock-in is one of the biggest security risks in cloud computing. Organizations may face problems when transferring their services from one vendor to another. As different vendors provide different platforms, that can cause difficulty moving one cloud to another. Increased complexity strains IT staff. Migrating, integrating, and operating the cloud services is complex for the IT staff. IT staff must require the extra capability and skills to manage, integrate, and maintain the data to the cloud. Spectre and meltdown. Spectre and meltdown allows programs to view and steal data which is currently processed on computer. It can run on personal computers, mobile devices, and in the cloud. It can store the password, your personal information such as images, emails, and business documents in the memory of other running programs. Denial of service, DOS, attacks. Denial of service, DOS, attacks occur when the system receives too much traffic to buffer the server. Mostly, DOS attackers target web servers of large organizations such as banking sectors, media companies, and government organizations. To recover the lost data, DOS attackers charge a great deal of time and money to handle the data. Account hijacking. Account hijacking is a serious security risk in cloud computing. It is the process in which individual users or organizations' cloud account, bank account, email account, and social media account is stolen by hackers. The hackers use the stolen account to perform unauthorized activities. What is risk management? Risk management encompasses the identification, analysis, and response to risk factors that form part of the life of a business. Effective risk management means attempting to control, as much as possible, future outcomes by acting proactively rather than reactively. Therefore, effective risk management offers the potential to reduce both the possibility of a risk occurring and its potential impact. Risk analysis process. Risk analysis is a qualitative problem-solving approach that uses various tools of assessment to work out and rank risks for the purpose of assessing and resolving them. Here is the risk analysis process. 1. Identify existing risks. Risk identification mainly involves brainstorming. A business gathers its employees together so that they can review all the various sources of risk. The next step is to arrange all the identified risks in order of priority. Because it is not possible to mitigate all existing risks, prioritization ensures that those risks that can affect a business significantly are dealt with more urgently. To assess the risks in many cases, problem resolution involves identifying the problem and then finding an appropriate solution. However, prior to figuring out how best to handle risks, a business should locate the cause of the risks by asking the question, what caused such a risk and how could it influence the business? 3. Develop an appropriate response. Once a business entity is set on assessing likely remedies to mitigate identified risks and prevent their recurrence, it needs to ask the following questions. What measures can be taken to prevent the identified risk from recurring? In addition, what is the best thing to do if it does recur? 4. Develop preventive mechanisms for identified risks. Here, the ideas that were found to be useful in mitigating risks are developed into a number of tasks and then into contingency plans that can be deployed in the future. If risks occur, the plans can be put to action. Understanding Enterprise Risk Management, (ERM). ERM not only calls for corporations to identify all the risks they face and to decide which risks to manage actively, as other forms of risk management may, but it allows top managers to make executive decisions regarding risk management that may or may not be in the particular interest of a certain segment, but which optimizes for the firm as a whole. This is because risks can be siloed in individual business units that do not or cannot see the bigger risk picture. It also often involves making the risk plan of action available to all stakeholders as part of an annual report. Industries as varied as aviation, construction, public health, international development, energy, finance, and insurance all have shifted to utilize ERM. Companies have been managing risk for years. Traditional risk management has relied on each business unit evaluating and handling their own risk and then reporting back to the CEO at a later date. More recently, companies have started to recognize the need for a more holistic approach. A Chief Risk Officer, CRO, for instance, is a corporate executive position that is required from an ERM standpoint. The CRO is responsible for identifying, analyzing, and mitigating internal and external risks that impact the entire corporation. The CRO also works to ensure that the company complies with government regulations such as Sarbanes-Oxley (SOX) and reviews factors that could hurt investments or a company's business units. The CRO's mandate will be specified in conjunction with other top management along with the board of directors and other stakeholders. While ERM best practices and standards are still evolving, they have been formalized through COSO, an industry group that maintains and updates such guidance for companies and ERM professionals. What are the security risks of cloud computing? There are several security risks to consider when making the switch to cloud computing. Here are 5 of the top security risks your organization should be aware of. 1. Limited visibility into network operations. When moving workloads and assets to the cloud, organizations forfeit a certain level of visibility into network operations. This is because the responsibility of managing some of the systems and policies shifts to the cloud service provider. Depending on the type of service model being used, the shift of responsibility may vary in scope. As a result, organizations must be able to monitor their network infrastructure without the use of network-based monitoring and logging. 2. Malware. By moving large amounts of sensitive data to an internet-connected cloud environment, organizations are opening themselves up to additional cyber threats. Malware attacks are a common threat to cloud security, with studies showing that nearly 90% of organizations are more likely to experience data breaches as cloud usage increases. As cybercriminals continue to become increasingly savvy with their attack delivery methods, organizations must be aware of the evolving threat landscape. 3. Compliance. Data privacy is becoming a growing concern, and as a result, compliance regulations and industry standards such as GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI DSS are becoming more stringent. One of the keys to ensuring ongoing compliance is by overseeing who can access data and what exactly they can do with that access. Cloud systems typically allow for large-scale user access, so if the proper security measures, i.e. access controls, aren't in place, it can be difficult to monitor access across the network. 4. Loss of data. Data leakage is a growing concern for organizations, with over 60% citing it as their biggest cloud security concern. As previously mentioned, cloud computing requires organizations to give up some of their control to the CSP. This can mean that the security of some of your organization's critical data may fall into the hands of someone outside of your IT department. If the cloud service provider experiences a breach or attack, your organization will not only lose its data and intellectual property, but will also be held responsible for any resulting damages. 5. Inadequate due diligence. The move to the cloud should not be taken lightly. Similar to a third-party vendor, when working with a cloud service provider, it's important to conduct thorough due diligence to ensure that your organization has a complete understanding of the scope of work needed to successfully and efficiently move to the cloud. In many cases, organizations are unaware of how much work is involved in a transition, and the cloud service provider's security measures are often overlooked.